You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Comics YouTube channel, where we have more Night Terrors breaking news. We get some more books and some more creative teams here. This will round out and give us a look at all of the books that we'll have. They ended up first announcing what they call the villain books, and I put that in quotes because I don't know that Catwoman fans are going to agree with that, but that wasn't very impressive. When I did the video, which I will link to in the show notes of this one and at the end of this video, so if you haven't watched it, you can go and do that. But what I ended up worrying about is it would be a jumping off point for people rather than a jumping on point. I think that that's what most people were saying in the comments, that they weren't looking forward to this, that they were just going to bail on this whole, Night Terrors with a K. Now, I ended up saying in that video, trying to be positive, because, I'm Positive Jimmy. I said, hey, everybody, if you do bail, come back in September, because in September, you're going to get a lot of these Dawn of DC books coming out and even creative team changes on The Flash and Wonder Woman. So I ended up not even going further than that. And I have to give a shout out to Ahmed Bin Bakar, and I hope I said that right. Ahmed ended up going that next level and really getting upset and saying, what is DC doing? They have the Dawn of DC, their big thing going forward. They have that going on, and they're just going to end up destroying any momentum that it has by shutting down all the books and having this Night Terrors isn't the thing that's going to drive your line forward. It's the Dawn of DC. That should take precedent over this sort of bullshit. But here we are. And whoever's in charge, I don't know. Should they be fired? Yes. Will they be? No. So there you go. But we did get more books, more creative teams. And I will tell you, it's kind of like the, be careful what you wish for or don't wish for, because I ended up being very happy that Clunrad was not involved in that initial bunch, and they're involved here. And on my favorite character, we'll get to that. But I do think that some of these creative teams and some of these books will have some people maybe say, I'm not looking forward to this, but I'll get that book at least, or I'll get this. Now, I'm not going to tell you that these 2-issue tie-ins will mean anything, but say you are a Mark Waid fan and what he's doing, he has a book. Say you are, I don't know, a Josie Campbell fan. She has a book. I don't know. We're going to go through these right now, and you can decide each one, hey, I get that or I won't. I'll let you know what I think, obviously, and I'll try not to get too depressed by the end. And we will end up, this will be the title, the creative team, and then a little description about what the books are about. And some of these you might have to sit down to listen to. Some of these are a bunch of hogwash, but we'll start with Night Terrors Wonder Woman #1, written by Josie Campbell and Stephanie Williams, with art by Juan Ferreira and Megan Hetrick. I'm a huge Juan Ferreira fan. One thing I will point out, a little bit different than most of the ones we got in that first round, there's definitely going to be backups to a bunch of these. And that only means that they're going to be even more expensive, which will be another reason why people will not get this. Or they'll just end up making everything straight up $5, $6, who knows? They don't give the prices yet, but I expect the worst. But there's Night Terrors Wonder Woman, like I said, Josie Campbell, Stephanie Williams, Juan Ferreira, Megan Hetrick, and it comes out on July 18th. Here is the description, which if you are possibly a JLD fan, maybe this will be for you. After investigating an alarming intrusion at the now-defunct Hall of Justice, Wonder Woman and her unexpected new ally, Detective Chimp, well, I kind of think is an old ally on that JLD team, but suddenly find themselves in a world where their worst nightmares come to life. If I know Detective Chimp like I know Detective Chimp, that means that it's a dry nightmare. No alcohol served, prohibition, Detective Chimp will lose his mind. But who could possibly defeat things that go bump in the night? The Justice League Dark. So there, I think some people may get excited about that. The Amazon princess reunites with her old team to save the world from a sweet dream turned into a beautiful nightmare. I almost thought that said sweat dream for, we've all had some of those now and again, right? I shouldn't even hit that. I'll go back and do that. We've all had one of those. Oh my goodness. Plus, Queen Nubia, this is why you get Stephanie Williams on it. Queen Nubia finds herself trapped in the Well of Souls. It's one of those things in the Wonder Woman books. The Well of Souls is a big thing. But since the trial of the Amazons, even before, Clune, Rad, Stephanie Williams, they have mucked up that Well of Souls so much that I just think Queen Nubia might be hanging out and has turned it into a hot tub. That's what I think. Hot tub night terrors. We'll call it with a K. Next one is, and I'll say, I'm not going to flush that one. I'm actually going to, that might be okay. I'm not so big on the writers, but I kind of like the idea of the JLD. We'll get the JLD mentioned in another book as well, so wait for that. The next one, though, is Night Terrors Superman #1, written by Joshua Williamson with art by Tom Riley, and that comes out July 18th. Now we're going to start. Now, this is, again, you're getting Joshua Williamson. He is the guy who's leading the charge. He's running this whole event. We all already mentioned in that first video how well that Dark Crisis went, stuff like that. But you would expect this description of this book, Joshua Williamson's Superman. He's on the Dawn of DC Superman. Everything's clicking here. And this sounds like a lot of malarkey. Clark Kent knows why he's been pulled into the nightmare realm and goes in search of his family and friends. But that journey takes him to the haunted Nightly world, not with a K, Nightly planet. What? Like that, again, that just sounds like, where he is confronted by the Super Reaper. All right. I hope he looks just like the Batman who laughs so I could hate him even more. In the waking world, though, Superman was mid-flight when he was hit by the nightmare wave, and where he crash lands will surprise you. I'm more surprised at something as stupid sounding as the nightmare wave, which to me kind of brings up visions of stuff going on at Marvel. The Terrigen Mist rolls into town, but also like the Lazarus Ring, like the nightmare wave. You can't just have these people go to sleep and just have the nightmares, right? The nightmare wave. Also, Super Reaper, which sounds like a monster truck, and also Nightly Planet, which I don't know, that kind of sounds sexy. But that whole, that just sounds terrible. That sounds terrible. Oh my goodness. We'll move on to Night Terrors Action Comics #1. If you thought stuff in that Superman sounded terrible, wait till you hear this, because Night Terrors Action Comics #1 is written by Leah Williams and Philip Kennedy Johnson. All right, Philip Kennedy Johnson. Nobody else, right? I didn't say Leah Williams. Oh, God. And art by Vasco Georgiev and Miko Soyan. And that comes out July 25th. And I think I said it, but Superman #1 comes out July 18th. So if I didn't, there you go. Here's where we go. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, Leah Williams, we're going to get more Power Girl stuff. Even thinking that in my head, I didn't know what was going on at the beginning of the solicit until it dawned on me that what's going on is complete and utter horseshit, because it says Page may have that Page. I'm serious. I sat there. I'm like, that's this Page. Oh, that's Power Girl now. All right. Now I realize why I'm going to hate this. And it's listed as the main thing. You end up an Action Comics deal where it looks like the main story is a Leah Williams Page Power Girl story. Seriously, I'm no Power Girl, but I can use a little mind reading and know that nobody's going to want to get involved in this, right? Nobody. But Phil Kennedy Johnson as a backup. Page may have narrowly escaped the grasp of the devious Johnny Sorrow. That is really unfortunate. For one of the few times I'm probably voting or rooting for the bad guy. But all of that was just to warm up to the real villain inside. Oh, you mean Leah Williams? That's the real villain. Meanwhile, the Super Twins are lost in a terrifying dreamscape and being hunted by a nightmare version of their own adopted father, the murderous cyborg Superman. Can Superboy Kong Keenan and the Steel family find the twins in time to save them, or will they join his bloody list of victims? I would guess that the Super Twins wouldn't even know. They'd be like, oh man, who's this cool, robot-looking Superman? He looks pretty neat. I mean, the crap that they saw in Warworld is so much worse in my mind than just a robot-looking Superman that they might be duped. It'd be one of those things that would be funny through the whole issue. They think it's like, oh man, this is fun times with Robot Daddy. And then everybody's like, no, he's really bad. No, he's not that bad. Like, we had real weird people back on Warworld, and you weren't there, but you can't imagine. But yeah, Leah Williams, that's all we have to say. I did laugh. At one point, somebody did mention in the comments that if Leah Williams is getting work, then you know that they've gone to the bottom of the barrel. Now this is 2 books she's on. That doesn't make any damn sense. All right, so what does the Bat side of things have for us? Well, we'll start with Night Terror's Batman #1, written by Joshua Williamson, with art by Guillem March and backup art by David LaFuente. Hopefully Joshua Williamson can right his wrongs of what we just read earlier in the Superman solicit, but here we go. Ever since becoming Batman, Bruce Wayne has been a creature of the night. That's with an N, but now trapped in the nightmare realm, Bruce is stalked by the horror he's created. Can he escape before his own nightmares pull him deeper into the darkness? You know that Batman always does create his own villains, but did he also create his own self-villain? Yeah, it doesn't seem that exciting, but it doesn't sound awful, but it just, again, it doesn't sound that original. Hopefully, though, we'll get some sort of Bat-centric originality from the next one. Next up is Night Terror's Detective Comics #1. This is something that I think people will say that they would look forward to. It's written by Dan Waters with art by Riccardo Federici, and it comes out July 25th. I'm not a huge fan of either, but I know they have fans. I actually did like Dan Waters' Sword of Azrael book, a book that not a lot of people read, but I did actually enjoy that, so I can't say that I don't like Dan Waters. Riccardo Federici is one of those things that when we talk about, he was on Action Comics. He did a lot of the War World stuff with Philip Kennedy Johnson. When he was on that, it's one of those weird plays, and this happens occasionally, where you sit there and you say, okay, this guy's art is great, but is it great comic book art? Does it actually tell a good comic book story? Because to me, it is actually too good at points in the way that it's very static. It's a very static image, which again is kind of goofy to say on a page like that, but I think that it's better served for, say, variant covers and maybe some things where you're telling an epic recap of something. Like I could see Riccardo Federici's art being great at the beginning of a big event book where you're saying like, oh, at the dawn of time, this, like that would be awesome. But when you're doing individual sequential panels, I think that it kind of plays off a little odd. But again, I'd take that over, say, a Riley Rossmo every day and about 7 million times on Sunday. So I'll give you that, right? But I think that people will. And I don't know why I got into a discussion about Riccardo Federici's art, but you're welcome. Jim Gordon stumbles upon a sacred ritual held by 3 disciples chanting around an enchanted clock. They're going to rock around the clock. They are. And one of them is wearing the robotic batsuit that Jim donned many years ago as Batman. That would be back in the DCYOU times where it was the Bat Bunny suit known as the Rookie. And we've had that suit many a time since, especially in the James Tynion Detective Comics and Rebirth. I do like that suit, and it's kind of one of those things that the stories with Jim Gordon taking over for Batman when Bruce died with the bunny suit and stuff like that, the concept was way better than the execution, but it's one of those things because people did hate it, but now it's kind of got like a soft spot in my heart, so I want to see what's going on here. But he says, the Bat Bunny suit, except this metal suit seems to have been soldered directly into the flesh of the wearer. That sounds a lot like a Professor Pig thing. But instead of Dollatrons, it's Bat Bunny Suitatrons. We'll have to see. And then it goes on, what do these creatures want with Gotham, and why are they targeting Jim's daughter, Babs? This has to be a dream, right? No, it's a nightmare. They didn't put that. They should have put that, though. But I think that people might be into that one. Sounds okay. Bat Bunny suit makes me giggle, though. Oh, Rookie, we hardly knew ye. Now we get to the scourge of all of these. The thing that, I'm kind of positive at this point. I'm having some fun with it. And then we get to the point where, again, Ashton Kutcher got together with David Blaine, but then they also called Chris Angel over, and they wanted to punk and mind freak the hell out of me because here it is, Night Terror's Nightwing #1. Oh, Nightwing, my favorite character. Really, my favorite character is Dick Grayson, but in the envelope of things, Nightwing is put in there as well. All right, written by Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad. Oh, my goodness gracious. I mean, the Cloonrads, who would have thought it?
Unacceptable!
And then they're joined by artist Daniele De Nicolo. It comes out July 18th, and here is the description. It doesn't sound horrible. The thing that gets me with this kind of goes well hand in hand with the idea that I don't think that Becky Cloonan, Michael W. Conrad have a lot of imagination. And I think that when they do write stuff, they try to go to the fan service well a lot, but they don't really know where and when to go. So they grab weird things. And in this, I think they're just grabbing something, not realizing that we are well past this. And you don't need, how many more times can we see the Haley Circus reenactment of when the Graysons died, the Flying Graysons, Dick Grayson's parents, because that's what all this is. I get it, would be his nightmare. I think that actually his nightmare is having Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad writing him. And see, here we go. We have column A and column B here. Dick wakes up in a jail to realize a nightmare has come to life. He murdered someone he loves, and we could decide who that might be. You would say Babs right away, and this is a nightmare realm, so why not? I have a feeling it's going to be something else. It's going to be something ridiculous. It's going to be his sister. There you go. And the only thing making it worse is his past coming to haunt him in the form of humanoid pigs playing the characters of his childhood at Haley's Circus. Humanoid pigs acting out the Flying Grayson's death. Well, to me, they're doing it scene by scene. So I'm sitting there and, maybe you could think of the worst thing that ever happened to you. And that would be tough to rewatch that, to see it play. But when it's done by humanoid pigs, it kind of takes you out of that. I don't know that me personally could suspend my disbelief enough to not just laugh that there's a bunch of pigs doing trapeze shit all over the place. That'd be pretty funny. Just imagine you got these pigs in these singlets, the Flying Graysons. I want to come up with a clever, different deal of what they would call the frying Graysons, right? Like bacon? I don't know. I can't come up with that. It's so stupid. I can just imagine they're doing it and they're waiting for this reaction from Nightwing. And he's like, "The hell's going? What are you pigs doing? Like, what are you guys doing here?" And when he says that, he didn't realize that Harvey Bullock and a couple guys are behind him. They get offended by that, think that he's calling them out and using derogatory things to the police, and they beat the living shit out of Nightwing. That's a nightmare. Here we go. And then I'm telling you, Harvey would put his cigar out right on the forehead of Dick. It'd be the worst. Holy moly. And then it says leading up to the night of his parents' death, played out by pigs. The Batgirls try to help Nightwing figure out who framed him or why he killed someone, but it's his cellmates and others, unlikely villains in jail who may help him solve the mystery. The mystery that doesn't really mean anything because it's a nightmare. Oh, God. I hope that at one point you end up, the pigs are trapezing around. One guy's getting real flamboyant and they tell him not to ham it up. That'd be good. See, this could be fun, right? It's going to be nonsense. Again, one thing that I will point out, and something that me and Eric, who we do the DC Comics stuff together, especially our main podcast, and we were talking about this Night Terrors, it does remind us of what was the, I think, James Robinson event in the New 52, Gothtopia, where it was like this idyllic Gotham. It was cool. Everybody's costumes seemed to be white. They ended up going around, and it ended up where there's a dark undertone. It was some deal, and it had to do with a new strain of fear toxin from Scarecrow, but they ended up in this realm of, oh my God, everything's going great in Gotham, but is it? And then when they figure it out, you have Ann Noceni, who is doing the Catwoman tie-in, didn't realize afterwards that, okay, that stuff didn't really happen. And what she ended up doing was Selena had a job in Gothtopia at a crisis center. Next thing you know, Selena kept that job, but Gothtopia's over. I have a feeling that if they had their druthers, Cloonrad would do that. Like, he'd still be trying to figure out the crime that happened in the nightmare that really didn't happen. Luckily, they probably won't be involved, but maybe they will. I don't know. But yeah, that sounds like nonsense. July 18th. Mark that on your calendar and don't get out of bed that day. The next book is Night Terror's Robin, #1. It comes out July 11th, and it's written by Kenny Porter. People like Kenny Porter. I'm still like in a holding pattern. I'm still trying to figure out if I like Kenny Porter, but I don't hate Kenny Porter, so that's a benefit. Art by Miguel Mendonca. Now, this is going to be involved. I thought that this was going to be a straight-up Damian Wayne deal. It's not. And people might be intrigued. It's a Jason Todd and Tim Drake story. The problem is I think you're going to, again, like the Clune Rats, I'm afraid Kenny Porter's going to go right back to, oh, what does Jason fear? Crowbar and Joker. Oh, my God. What does Tim Drake fear? Probably his parents dying and, maybe that he walked away from a burning building in the Robin deal. He probably would actually, for the most part, fear that Megan Fitzmartin will get a reprieve and continue writing that awful series. But I think it's just going to go back to cliches, and I don't need that. But we'll see, because here is the description. Jason, Todd, and Tim Drake must fight against their own worst fears and each other as they're forced to relive the darkest moments of their lives. All right, there you go. That's why I think it's just going to go back to kind of, that sort of surface level stuff. But we'll hope it's a little better. We're going to get moving here. I looked at the time and why do I keep yapping? All right, the next one's Night Terror's Teen Titans #1 by Andrew Constant, who doesn't have a lot of credit, does some anthology stuff. One of the things that he did, Future State Nightwing, I did enjoy enough. But another thing he did, The Demon, Hell is Earth, a miniseries back in 2018, that was straight garbage. So hopefully we'll get the good Andrew Constant. Also Scott Godlewski on art, July 25th. It comes out. Here is the description. After plummeting into the nightmare realm, the remaining members of the Titans come face to face with a fever dream turned reality. The Terror Titans. These warped versions of our heroes are prepared to do anything to become the next Justice League, even kill. That just sounds surface level. That doesn't sound great. But hey, here's the next one. Night Terror's The Flash, #1, written by Alex Paknadal with art by Daniel Abelis, and it comes out July 11th. Now, a lot of people had speculated that this whole Night Terrors would be the impetus to get Wally to this cosmic horror Cy Spurrier book that's coming out in September. But this is a Barry story, so that's not going to happen. After the Flash family freed Barry Allen from the dimension Pariah locked him in, the Scarlet Speedster was able to return home for some quality time with Iris and his other loved ones. But when the world is plunged in the nightmare realm, Barry's trapped in a different cage, maybe a rusty cage, because I would think he's a Soundgarden fan, and he'll have to find a way out on his own. Boy, for the idea that Wally has really been screwed over a lot, Barry's really getting the short end. He just keeps getting trapped places. Like, he ends up, like, everywhere he goes, he ends up getting just taken, trapped, all that. But here he goes again. The next one, Night Terror Shazam by Mark Waid. So I think that people will grab this one. And Roger Cruz on art will be available on July 11th. It's a shame that Dan Mora isn't on art, but he does have a cover for this. So maybe that'll get you, float your boat. When the nightmare wave struck, that nightmare wave, the entire Shazamily was, I don't like the way that sounds. I just Shazam family. You're really not cutting that many corners here saying Shazamly. It just drives me nuts. It always has. Was plunged into a terrifying landscape of their own fears. Though no fears ran deeper than those of Mary Marvel, haunted by a twisted version of her heroic brother, Teth Shazam. Not much there, but I trust Mark Waid. I really do. So you'll have that. One little aside, though. If you're wondering about Mary Marvel, I do suggest that you pick up, while I think that it's been complete and utter garbage, I do suggest you either pick up or, look at the last couple pages of what will be in a couple weeks, the whole Revenge of the Gods. Lazarus Planet, Revenge of the Gods. There's going to be a bit of a change. It's kind of like, let's change things to get, it's pretty good. You'll get a new thing with Mary in that with a little wink, wink. The next one is Night Terror's Green Lantern #1, another book that I'd rather just have the regular Green Lantern, though. It's not going to be out that long at this point. Let Jeremy Adams' book, percolate a little. Don't go and throw it into this stupid thing. Night Terror's Green Lantern #1 is a main story by Jeremy Adams with a backup by Alex Seguera, with art by Eduardo Pensica, Julio Ferreira, and Mario Foxilo. I would say if you say, I probably mispronounced that. July 11th, that comes out. The Fox. Something is wrong in Sector 2814 and Hal Jordan, Kilowog, and other Lanterns must find the mysterious disturbance despite a ban on any of Earth's Green Lanterns leaving their world. Because you always have to handicap any Green Lantern in any book, right? Sinestro also finds themselves at the heart of it. What they discover is a planet controlled by a familiar face, the face of Hal's greatest fear. I smell parallax. And in the backup story, Sinestro himself thrust into a new reality that drags him into the darkest corners of the past and perhaps his future. Oh, my goodness. And I said that comes out July 11th. I like Jeremy Adams, so I'll be getting that one. We will continue with, and we only have a couple more. This one was something I didn't expect, so that's cool. Night Terror's Zatanna #1. Now, it is written by Dennis Culver, and I love the idea that for his credits, they do end up just having Unstoppable Doom Patrol, the book that he's written one issue that's come out so far. They're not going to mention Future State Gotham, because that was awful. So, hey, let's go with the one issue of Unstoppable Doom Patrol. Let's go for it. And with that, that's a little wink, wink, foreshadowing. Art by David Baldione, and it comes out July 11th. A lot seem to be July 11th. Most of the world is trapped in the nightmare realm. One of the few still awake is Zatanna, who must defend her unconscious allies, Wonder Woman and Detective Chimp, from insomnia's sleepless nights. That's with a K. Led by their horrifying sleepless queen. That's with a Q. But the outnumbered Zatanna can't do it alone. She uses her magic backwards. That'd be great if in the nightmare realm, she could actually do magic talking forward so I could actually read it and understand it. I sit and look at that backwards magic and it blows my mind. I just sit there. I'm like, and really, I wish at one point I should really go through an issue with Zatanna and record the nonsense I think she's saying. I end up, it's like, done, gone, horse, field. All right, I get it. She's going to go attack that guy in the library. She uses her magic to summon any champion that is still awake, which puts her in an unlikely team-up with one of the world's strangest superheroes. Of course, Dennis Culver's on this, the Unstoppable Doom Patrol's Robot Man. Robots, they do sleep, but they dream of electric sheep, and that does have nothing to do with this. So he's in. And then that just lets you like, okay, well, where are the metal men? Are they then? Do they sleep? I don't know. That'd be pretty cool. Superman, he doesn't have to sleep. That's why, right there, I think is why you have to get hit by the nightmare wave, because somebody would bring up, Superman doesn't really need to sleep, and we found out at the beginning of Doomsday Clock that he never had nightmares until that one. Now he's just having nightmares every second of the day. But yeah, I guess people do like Zatanna. She hasn't had a lot of focus. It's a shame that you have to throw in Robot Man with that, but it's Dennis Culver. I hope that it's good. The last one on the list, Night Terror's Ravager #1. Now, this one I didn't see coming, right? And I mean, I didn't see coming. Night Terror's Ravager #1 is written by Ed Brisson with art by Dexter Soy. And in that combo, I do like Dexter Soy. Ed Brisson's okay. He's not anybody that's going to excite me. He's not somebody I'm going to buy an issue because he's the writer. But if I like the people in it and like the deals, then I don't mind. I don't think that he's horrible, and you can kind of maybe get some things out of it. I love Rose. I love Ravager. So I would definitely get this. Personally, I don't know how many people will agree. Ravager is separated from Stormwatch and trapped in a nightmare world where she must protect the younger self from being consumed and corrupted by the Murder Man and his blood-crazed slaughter squadron. In Night Terror's Ravager, that's with a K. And I mean, Murder Man, if that isn't the nightmare version of Deathstroke, then you could call me Sally. Can Ravager protect a young Rose Wilson without losing her own identity? That is Rose Wilson. Why does the Murder Man seem so familiar? Almost like a father figure. And how does he know so much about Rose as if he was like some sort of parent or something? Yeah, I think that is what it is. This will be one of the first ones that comes out. This comes out July 4th. So we'll get going with the Ed Brisson Night Terrors with a K, Ravager #1. That's Ravager with an R. And I'm looking forward to that. So overall, I think that these, creative teams, I think this gives a little more confidence that we might get something decent out of it. What I go into this, and usually it's behind the scenes talk. A lot of times these events come out and then you wonder, like, what were they told? What were they, what was going on that they were told to do this or do that? And usually I get a hold and they're like, they just told us to write neat stories for the characters. And that always upsets me because I want the event to be, but with this, I don't know. If they just tell Mark Waid, just do a fun Shazam story, I'm in. I'll get that. I won't even look that it says Night Terrors. It's another Shazam #1 for me. Let's go. And you do get some of these, like, when are we going to get a Ravager book or Sedana or a JLD? At least we can get some of these things. Now, all that said and done, like I said, I will link to the first video where I was a little more pessimistic, but I will tell you right now, the coverage will continue because I ended up reading the Free Comic Book Day Night Terrors Prelude, and I'm going to do a non-spoiler video on some impressions and what I think, but also what I think is going on with this whole Night Terrors deal, kind of tying into stuff like a future state or a convergence, why these things usually happen, and maybe get maybe a positive spin that this actually may be, in disguise, something where DC, for once, is thinking ahead, and this might work out. It might be, you might lose the battle here, but you might win the war at the end for what I think might be going on, and from little things that I was told from some of the people who I even mentioned in this podcast as creators. So they don't really know it's that, but some people are already questioning and trying to figure out all this. I'm going to do a video on that sometime this weekend. And just a shout out at the end here, probably be talking about more of this whole Night Terrors on the Comics Aficionados show that I do, occasionally with Wes and a bunch of other awesome comic book fans over at the Thinking Critical YouTube channel. I am going to be on this weekend, and I'm sure, I don't know if I've gotten the outline of what we're going to talk about yet, but I'm sure this will be front and center, which will be cool. Talk a lot of comics on that with a lot of cool and, cool people. Cool people indeed. So with all that, thanks everybody. I hope that you don't mind this going a little longer. But that's what happens. I don't make the news. I just report it and yell about it and, put certain sound effects with it, like the Wolfman. I wish the Wolfman was involved. I would be more excited. But thanks everybody. Please, I didn't say it before, but please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Like the video, enable the notifications, and let me know. Continuing, and especially if you commented on the first video, please let me know if this changes your mind any, if this makes you a little more enthusiastic, if you're just going to get involved in certain books and which ones those are, because I love hearing from everybody. I try to respond to everybody because I really do enjoy that. It's something that I had been doing, our podcast and our website and all that stuff, but I hadn't been doing the YouTube stuff. And that's what I really like about doing it. I end up liking the interaction. So keep them coming. Thanks, everybody. And I'll talk to you all later.
You are all weirdos.
Weird science is the revolution. Weird science is the revolution.